Let's take it a little further. I mean, in terms of how it all started, because like a lot of people wouldn't have any idea what you're talking about.
Yes, sure.
Like a lot of people, like when I speak to them and I, out of curiosity, like I ask them, like, how old do you think the Earth is?
Oh, yes.
And they're like, which year is it? Like 2024?
A little older than that.
Probably.
Yeah.
And so, what in your experience, like, what's the general knowledge out there? Like, do people really understand how old we are?
That's a really good question, and it varies enormously by population. So
Right.
in Pakistan, what I found is, well, let's take the States. In the States, there has been a kind of weaponization of a lot of the kind of paleontology and any of the history that might lead towards an evolutionary theoretical approach. Because unfortunately, some people in religious communities have decided that this is a threat to religious belief. Now, I don't happen to agree with it. I think there is no threat to religious belief. I think the two sit side by side quite happily. That God, being God, can operate however God wants to operate, and if God chooses to operate through selective pressure, through natural selection, through genetic drift, that's how God's going to operate. But some people in the States, in this kind of fundamentalist Christian community, have decided that the Bible is to be taken literally. The world started 6,000 odd years ago, and anything that challenges that is unacceptable. Now, 50 years ago in Pakistan, I don't think that had any traction at all. Today in Pakistan, there do seem to be some people who have adopted this weird Christian antagonism towards evolutionary theory, and it's very unfortunate. I don't see it widespread here, but it's widespread enough that we don't have nearly as much education in the primary school and secondary school on these matters. So there's an awful lot of people coming through the schools in Pakistan who really have zero awareness of anything, before, say, I don't know, the Mughal era.
Yeah.
That's kind of where history starts, and
As much as religious knowledge that they have.
yes. And that's an interesting one because, I have spent, I'm not a religious expert, I'm not a theologian or religious studies, but I've worked in Pakistan, so of course I have studied folk beliefs of Islam. I have studied folk practices of Islam, and the people that I have most worked with have fallen into the kind of Barelvi camps, some Deoband, but they go to shrines, they like these urs, they like Qawwali, and I once was giving a talk in Britain, and I was talking about the Chaliswan, this 40-day mourning period after a death. And there were 3 young women from the Middle East who stopped my lecture. It was a lecture for like 100 odd students, and they stopped and they stood up and they said, no, this is un-Islamic. You're not allowed to have 40 days of mourning. You only get 3 days of mourning. But of course, I'm not an expert. I can't tell them, no, that's not true. And all I could say was, I don't really care. The Muslims that I worked with, they practice this 40 days of mourning. That's what I'm interested in. If the truth is something else, well, that truth is not as interesting to me as what the people that I work with do. So much of what they tell me about Islam has zero foundation in the Quran or the Hadith.
Yeah.
A lot of it. The tenets, the 5 pillars of Islam, they've got that. That's fine. But I've been told, for example, that if anyone could convert me to Islam, then 7 generations before and 7 generations after them are guaranteed to go to heaven. Now, I have asked many theologians, many ulama, where is that found in the Hadith or the Quran? And they all say to me, nowhere. So these folk beliefs, they arise, they emerge. I think for the most part, they don't hurt anyone. Sometimes they can be harmful, and then it's probably incumbent on people within Pakistan to address them. But most of the ones I've seen, celebrations around children, celebrations around wedding, these are things that bring communities together. There is a kind of, I think it's not texto-Islam, but it is something that is beautiful, and it binds people together in ways that is positive and encourages cooperation, which I think is actually in the spirit of Islam, right? Even if it's not found in the Quran or the Hadith. Having said that, I'm not an expert in this, so nobody should listen to me on the sort of truth of any religion.